on 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app.
O'Connor and Company.
It's 5:06. It's O'Connor and Company. Yeah, it is. You know that it is. Good morning. Good Tuesday to you. We are ready to kick a little booty. Julie Gunlock, today we're going to kick booty.
Okay.
I don't want to be guilty of cultural appropriation, but I've decided that if rich suburban white girls can get out of their BMW, reach into their Gucci bag, and pull out a keffiyeh and wear it like a turban, like they're riding across the Sahara on a camel going, then I can culturally appropriate any damn thing I want.
You do it,
all right?
Larry. You do it.
Thank you. Later this morning at 7:35, Adam Credo, who covers the Middle East, Israel, Iran, like no one else, over there at the Free Beacon, he'll be joining us. 8:05, media commentator Joe Concha, Fox News Channel. It's been a while to check in with Joe. He's a goodie. And then get this, at 8:35, actor, comedian, SNL alum, Deuce Bigelow himself, Rob Schneider.
Wow.
He is in town with a concert here in D.C., but let me tell you something. In general, stand-up comedy is having a resurgence right now, and it's because of comedians like Rob Schneider who have given all the F's they care about giving at this point. They're going to be funny no matter what. Enough with the political correctness, enough with worrying about being canceled, enough with trying to, my job is to be funny, not to win someone else an election for them.
Yeah.
And guess what? Comedy is beginning to be funny again.
He's kind of red-pilled too. I mean, he's
well, that's a big part of it.
Considered very provocative these days.
Recently converted to Christianity.
Yes.
The Catholic flavor, by the way, the OG, we like to call it. And so there, Rob Schneider, 8:35, will be joining us. Funny guy. And by the way, friends of mine, I tease this all through, I record little liner teases for our show coming up, and they play throughout the broadcast day. So all day long I was getting messages from people who heard, me say, during Vince Colonnese's show, Chris Plant's show, Mark Levin's show, say, tomorrow, Rob Schneider. And especially people in the military that I know all have stories about Rob Schneider.
Oh.
Because he's done a ton of USO support.
Oh, what a great guy.
Going all the way back, right after 9. He was in Manhattan on September 11th, 2001. It's funny how that event changes people.
Yep.
It makes a difference in their lives. All right, so that's all coming up. Looking forward to that conversation. Remember Jen Psaki?
I do.
The P is
Bad
silent.
memories.
I think it's Chris Plant who first coined her name as Psaki, just to be correct in the English. Now I know this is going to be shy for those of you who don't remember. Jen Psaki, she used to be the spokesperson for John Kerry at the State Department under Barack Obama, and then she was like assistant spokesperson for the White House at the end of the Obama administration, and then she was the White House press secretary for Joe Biden at the beginning before Karine Jean-Pierre took over. Now she hosts a television show on MSNBC. So let's just look at the track record. Her job was to speak on behalf of John Kerry and Obama's State Department, Joe Biden's White House, and now she hosts a show on MSNBC. And it turns out, shockingly, Julie, it turns out that she's a liar.
Yeah, she is.
I know, with that kind of resume, what would be what?
Yeah.
You speak on behalf of Biden, Obama, and Kerry, and you don't tell the truth? Color me shocked. But it's the lie that she's now been caught in, and she has had to admit and had to retract from her new book that is the most despicable.
It's just gross.
You'll remember she tells a story about the events in Afghanistan, which, of course, she wasn't in Afghanistan, so she doesn't know the detail. All she knows is what, she fed out to the American people as propaganda.
The lies, yeah.
And then she talks about the scene at Dover Air Force Base as the dignified remains were transferred from the transport airplane to these Gold Star families' final resting place of choice for their loved one. And you'll remember that story where Joe Biden checks his watch.
Yep.
While he's
I don't remember the
there.
story. I remember the video.
Of course. It's pretty obvious exactly what was. Well, she claimed that was misinformation.
Yeah.
She claims that the story that Joe Biden checked his watch during the dignified transfer of remains of these fallen Marines and service members was misinformation. And she put that in her book. She's got a brand new book. And the Gold Star families have seen this, and they're screaming bloody murder. So
Good.
Yeah, they said enough. In fact, they specifically, a great article from our friend Matt Foldy, who is sort of a freelance journalist and writes at various places. This column is at Town Hall. Gold Star families blast Jen Psaki's lies, quoting one of the parents. Her useless bleep wasn't even there. Yeah, not only was she not in Afghanistan to know exactly what happened, but she also wasn't at Dover to see what happened. So again, she's reporting third hand the propaganda she has been paid to spew.
That's right.
Whether it's in a book or whether it's behind the desk reading a teleprompter at MSNBC or it's at the podium for a press briefing at the White House. Her job is to be a paid propagandist.
Yeah.
And in this case, to dunk on conservative media and to defend her feckless, do-nothing president of a boss, she's now once again insulting these Gold Star families.
Yeah, and these Gold Star families have been through so much and have received nothing. Nothing. No investigation, no apology. No one was fired. No one in any way saw consequences because of what happened in Afghanistan.
Yeah.
And they have to deal with that. And they have done so gracefully and honorably, and they have honored their family members who died that day. And then to have to deal with this, these lies, these despicable lies from, again, a woman who was not there.
Yeah.
It's just sickening.
Hard to believe that Jen Psaki is a degenerate liar who will say whatever she needs to say to slam good, honest Americans and prop up her own sorry career and the career of those around her. But that's exactly who MSNBC hired. Mark Schmitz, whose son Jared was one of the 13 American service members killed. He has been an outspoken advocate for the truth on Capitol Hill regarding, which we still don't have the full truth about.
Right.
Told Matt Foldy at Town Hall, I'm quoting now, Jen Psaki will be hearing from our attorney and so will her publisher to the fullest extent of the law. What she wrote was absolutely disgusting and clearly only for political and financial gain at the expense of grieving Gold Star families. According to Axios, Psaki falsely claimed that it was misinformation for the Gold Star families and their supporters to claim that Biden checked his watch as their loved ones' remains returned to American soil. Let me read it for you. Quote, the president looked at his watch only after the ceremony had ended. Moments later, he and the first lady headed toward the car. We've seen the video.
It's on video.
And she wasn't there.
Larry, if it weren't for Jerry Dunleavy and James Hassan, who wrote the book Kabul, we wouldn't know anything about what happened. And their thorough investigation, that should have been done by the Department of Defense.
Yeah.
And there should have been, a range of congressional hearings. And it's just horrifying to know that she's trying to change. And that's what she's trying to do, is change history.
Darren Hoover, Gold Star father of Taylor Hoover, reacting to the news that Jen Psaki said that there will be changes in the next reprint of the book. She's retracting it now, but she's still claiming that she's right, that she's merely trying to point out that the extent to which he checked his watch was overblown by conservative media. Darren Hoover says, in the age of cancel culture, she needs to be canceled. She's trying to rewrite history and make money off our kids' backs and their legacy, and we will not stand for it. I'm calling on NBC, MSNBC, and Simon & Schuster, the publishers, to terminate Psaki for those lies. What's interesting, though, is to revisit what Jen Psaki and her pals had to say about Kristi Noem's book. Yeah. And Kristi Noem's claim that she saw Kim Jong-un, for instance, and we'll visit that in a moment, because I want to spend a little more time on this, because this shouldn't be swept under the rug like so many other stories of our time. We will in a moment, but first it's 5:15.
WMAL.
Making sense of the news.
Live
from the Home Paramount Pest Control Studios.
Home Paramount, the leader in pest control since 1939.
WMAL. more than just politics, because laughter is the best medicine. Download the WMAL app to stream us for free.
Kristi Noem was on, excuse me, Jen Psaki was on The View last week. Did you see that? Jen Psaki on The View. Boy,
Yeah. Ugh. That is just
that's a powerhouse
basket of
meeting of the minds. Here, let's take a listen to what she had to say. You know, because the last time we talked about somebody's book that was full of odd little notes, we spent a little time on it. Kristi Noem, I'm not going to lie about the shooting of the dog and the false mention that she met Kim Jong-un. Here, we were all commenting on it, including Jen Psaki.
As someone who's had to clean up a whole lot of political mess, just a few over in your career, have you ever seen anything as bizarre as Kristi Noem? Come on.
Well, Whoopi, I've never worked for somebody who shot their puppy in the face, so I'll start there. I've also never worked for somebody who's lied about a foreign leader they've met with. And Alyssa made this point. This is so true. Meeting with Kim Jong-un, there are a handful of people who have ever done this. It's very knowable. And also, Sarah, you made this point. I'm just echoing all of you here. I just wrote a book. You write your book. Whoopi just wrote a book. The book's coming out tomorrow, same day. Congratulations. It's great. I've been reading it. But you read the book 1,000 times.
So many.
You read it out loud. When you're doing the audiobook, you think, oh, you need a comma there. That weird word is strange. When she said, and I met with Kim Jong-un, did she think to herself, I didn't meet with Kim Jong-un? so to me, I've done lots of cleanup. Alyssa's done lots of cleanup. Not quite this kind of cleanup.
And now she's doing cleanup of her own book. Because as she was sitting there criticizing Kristi Noem about the Kim Jong-un thing, she had what I would say is a more blatant and more disgusting lie in her book. Is it getting the same kind of 24/7 coverage of Kristi Noem, though? No, it's not. Why not?
It's much worse.
Of course it's worse. She lied about
The Gold Star families.
about Gold Star families and these fallen service members. And she's trying to clean up the mess of Joe Biden. Also, at the beginning there, I've never worked with someone who shot their puppy in the face. No, but you worked with someone who showered with their daughter.
And also, let's not forget Commander.
Oh yeah, you want to talk about dogs, but the whole thing with Ashley Biden's diary is a little more odious, which we'll get to later in the show.
Well, look, Larry, I have this feeling about Jen Psaki. When you work for a pathological liar, we know that Biden lies constantly, and very rarely is he called out in the press, except for Peter Doocy. For Fox News. That's the only one who calls him out on these lies in the White House briefing room. So she sits up there and she's just used to seeing this, that lie after lie after lie they get away with. So I think that she just thought she can lie and get away with it and try to change history and defend Biden's absolutely monstrous behavior at that event. So, look, I'm not surprised that she lies. I'm not surprised that other people in the administration lie because the boss lies.
That's a great point. When you're that brazen and you can get away with it for your entire career, and the media, the corporate media, your friends, literally your pals that you've been grooming over the years so you can get a nice cushy job at the Peacock Network, will let you get away with it, support you, and hide it, and make giggle about it if it's ever exposed and never make a big deal out of it. Then you feel like you can lie. The difference here is that the victims are people who have consistently been victimized by the political left in this country and the powerful elites like Joe Biden and like Jen Psaki. Don't forget, this is the woman who mocked you, Virginia, for actually caring about a southern border and the ramifications of illegal immigration. She's a horrible, odious person. But, we've already known that. It's 5:21. Wrapping things up here about Jen Psaki. She's put out this statement to Axios. Axios came in, helping to do with the cleanup job. This is typical Jen Psaki, by the way. Give an exclusive leak to a friendly source like Axios. She put out a written statement. Yeah, we'll retract it, and we'll. And again, this is the key here. She's using misinformation to accuse other people of misinformation. That's what really bothers, even more so about this, that she lied to make it sound like we were lying when we weren't lying. But anyway, she said she's going to have a retraction. How about a public apology? Shouldn't she have to be forced to that and go back on The View and say, by the way, how we were laughing about Kristi Noem? I did something worse.
Yeah, I hear she has a show.
Yeah.
She could, she could publicly apologize on television. It's real easy.
She was too busy this week interviewing Lanny Davis, the lawyer for Michael Cohen, and continuing her job as a professional liar. It's 5:28.
Now,
On 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app.
O'Connor and Company.
5:37, chugging along here on this Tuesday morning. So far, Jen Psaki is the liar of the day. But, we're going to probably blame the entire mainstream media on that one as well, as we speak with Joe Concha at 8:05. Oh, before that, at 7:35, Adam Credo of Free Beacon will join us. And then at 8:35, Rob Schneider is going to join us. Very funny guy. And, getting the red pill. That's what the kids like to say, red pilled, right?
Yep.
If you start to actually think for yourself and turns out that you're not going to be a brain-dead liberal zombie, then, you're red-pilled. Let's go with that.
Let's go.
I'm Larry O'Connor alongside Julie Gunlock. Julie, now, I know that everything changed with Donald Trump. Donald Trump being president changed everything. And all the norms have been thrown out the window. I know that. Although I was told that Joe Biden and his band of merry men were the adults that are coming back into the room and restoring all the norms, right?
Yes, and don't forget, we were told that by many Republicans as well.
Oh, yes, all the never-Trump Republicans. So here's where I'm confused, if I may. It appears as though they get to pretend like they're restoring all the norms that Donald Trump threw out the window and shredded because he was, none of this is normal, we were told all the time. Right. But then if they do something that is out of line, inappropriate, outside the norms, and unprecedented, then they say, well, you Trump supporter, everything's changed, everything's different now, so we're allowed to do that. So they get it both ways.
Right.
Here's a case in point. I was told that, I can't even talk to my daughter or my son with this man in the White House because he is so profane. And it's not even safe to allow my child to watch the president address the nation because you don't know what kind of profanity will come out of his mouth, right? That's what we were told all the time. I am literally shaking. Well, here's Kamala Harris yesterday, not at a rally, not in a fit of anger, not in in an emotional reaction to something that's going on in the world. This is sitting at a forum for Asian Americans. Mm-hmm. And, well, listen to what she said.
We have to know that sometimes people will open the door for you and leave it open. Sometimes they won't. And then you need to kick that door down.
Oh, the laugh.
Excuse my language.
Well, the laugh is the biggest problem with that. But the whole, excuse my language, that was so calculated, so written, so planned. And then she acts like, excuse my language, it was just an outburst. No, that was planned. That was to get attention. And she has it.
Yep. And this isn't just with Kamala. We've seen Biden called Donald Trump, he called him a sick F word. He called Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. What is wrong with me? Netanyahu. Thank you. A bad effing guy and an a-hole. Struggling to not get fined there. Sorry, Larry.
Yeah.
So it's just common now for them to use that kind of language.
Perhaps, although if I remember right, most of the things that Joe, but I don't think he said it in this public setting on a stage into a microphone.
Right. Absolutely.
This is actually, listen, to suggest that we should be clutching our pearls and be shocked that somebody in the White House has dropped an F-bomb before, even if it's off, especially off mic or such.
Well, sure,
please.
Yeah.
We had Lyndon Johnson as president, okay? No. But this is a very public forum. It was deliberate. It was in front of, God and the world, and it wasn't just a private conversation that happened to be picked up off mic. Like when Joe Biden, gave Obama a hug and said this is a big effing deal when they signed Obamacare, et cetera.
Yeah.
This actually does cross a Rubicon, I think. And I listen, again, I don't want to go too far down the path of being so shocked and dismayed and disgusted. But I guess the point that I'm trying to make is you've got a weapon now that you can't use anymore. Stop with the whole, oh, he shattered the norms and we have no propriety and we can't have any respect for the commander-in-chief and George Washington would be spinning in his grave. Enough. This is the world we're in now, and you're wallowing in it too.
Yeah. And it's also her, excuse my language, and then the cackle.
And then more laughing.
Yes. That is, it's just so disingenuous. You're right. It was planned.
Also,
she wanted to come off as, it also has that sort of, how are you cool kids? Like it has that sort of,
right.
I'm so cool. I'm going to, kick this effing door down. Ugh.
Also, one other aspect of this, setting aside the F word for a moment, the forum. She, of course, is of Indian descent, and so she is asked as a groundbreaking person of color to speak to the Asian Pacific American Institute for Congressional Studies Summit. And she talks about how being Asian, you get lots of roadblocks, right?
We have to know that sometimes people will open the door for you and leave it open. Sometimes they won't. And then you need to kick that door down.
Let me just tell you something. It's Kamala Harris and her friends in the elite left and the Democratic Party who have been putting up barriers and locking doors for Asian Americans across the spectrum, whether it's at the admissions office at Harvard or at Thomas Jefferson High School.
That's right.
There have been, under the guise of equity, there have been racial quotas set up specifically by Kamala Harris's political party to block entry of Asian Americans in this country. They're guilty of it themselves. They're the ones who were holding back Asians in this country, not conservatives, not Republicans.
Well, and they have a history to deal with. They're the ones who locked them up during World War II. Let's not forget about that.
That is correct.
I mean, what in the world are they doing having a Democrat anywhere near this summit?
Well,
should have had Asra Nomani. Let's have it.
Well, because she's cool and she's going to drop an F-bomb. And
right.
That's all you got. It's 5:43. I'm telling you, what the heck has happened to Fareed Zakaria? We played this audio last week. Fareed Zakaria acknowledging that. Well, here I'll play it for you. No, I don't have that one. Last week he said, Biden has to do something radical with the asylum laws in this country because it's completely broke. He should immediately say nobody else gets in under these current asylum laws. You have to stay in your own country to apply. If you get to the border, you have to stay in Mexico. And Margaret Hoover, this is on the firing line, and Margaret Hoover leans in and says, well, these are all Trump policies. You mean he should... And he's like sort of caught. He's like, well, yeah, Trump. But anyway, the point is... Right. Anyway, moving on. Well, on his show on Sunday, this continued, and it specifically has to do with the trial of Donald Trump. He's starting to reach the realization that we've all seen here, first of all, that it's unjust. And if the man's name wasn't Trump, these wouldn't have been happening.
Glad they're catching up.
But he's also reading the polls. Again, everything Fareed Zakaria is saying here has nothing to do with what's right and wrong, whether it's the border or whether it's the trial against Donald Trump. It's about him trying to make sure the left doesn't blow this and they retain power, okay? But still, listen to what he said on CNN.
I have to admit, none of this is playing out as I thought it would. Trump is now leading in almost all the swing states, but behind those numbers lie even more troubling details. As someone worried about the prospects of a second Trump term, I think it's best to be honest about reality. I understand that polls are not always accurate, but in general, they have tended to underestimate Donald Trump's support, not overestimate it. I doubt that there are many shy Biden voters in the country.
Isn't that... Wait, but it gets worse for Joe Biden and the left.
Perhaps the most worrying new trend for the Democrats is that far from being the more unified party, they are now bitterly divided over the war in Gaza. Bernie Sanders has said the eruption of pro-Palestinian protests could be Biden's Vietnam, and even invoked the specter of Lyndon Johnson choosing not to run for re-election in 1968 because of the opposition to that war. The analogy is far-fetched. America then was itself sending hundreds of thousands of troops to Vietnam, with more being recruited from college campuses every week. but there's no denying that the party seems more openly divided than it has been in decades.
All right, there's a little bit more on that, and I'll play it for you. But again, all of this, everyone's like, "Oh, Fareed Zakaria is now red-pilled." No. This is all to serve the interests and the agenda of the left.
Right.
And he's, because you heard this, like, he's worried that Biden's going to be like Johnson during Vietnam. In other words, do what the stupid kids on the campuses are telling you to do,
right.
Joe.
That's right. But what is clear is that the Democrats are the party of chaos. We heard that all the time, that Trump is the party, Trump and the Republicans are the party of chaos. They brought all this ill will and this fighting and infighting to the nation, and we all just got along. Yeah, right. I mean, anybody who remembers Romney running and the abuse Republicans took, and Romney himself and Paul Ryan, who were comparatively moderate, and yet Democrats lost their minds when Romney and Ryan were running. The point is now the Democrats have made this country chaos, and they are the party of chaos. And Fareed Zakaria recognizes that. But of course, you're right that his underlying message is just do whatever it takes. Do whatever it takes to please these fractured members of the Democrat Party.
And the trials against him keep him in the spotlight, infuriate his base, who sees him as a martyr, and even may serve to make him the object of some sympathy among people in general who believe that his prosecutors are politically motivated. This happens to be true, in my opinion. I doubt the New York indictment would have been brought against a defendant whose name was not Donald Trump.
I mean, come on. And again, the whole purpose of this is to inform viewers of CNN, especially, listen, he doesn't really have viewers, but, a handful of very elite, very powerful people in the party, they think that he's very smart, and this is, one of those erudite shows, and they are pulling the panic levers right now.
Totally.
And let's not forget, this is exactly. He also talks about the polls and the fact that the Americans believe that Joe Biden is mentally incapable of doing his job, and he says rightly that's likely not to change. What could Joe Biden do right now to change the public's perception that he's completely with it? He can't. He's incapable of changing that.
Yeah.
And
let's not forget, this is what he said on Firing Line last week that I just referred to.
System is broken. And Biden needs to confront that and say, we're going to have to reform the whole system. I would wish he'd do something much more extreme, like say the old asylum system is dead. No one is coming in through that process. You have to apply from your home country.
Which was a Trump policy.
Which was a Trump, and also the Mexico,
He can't. He starts to say Trump, and then he goes.
What he is suggesting is that Biden and the Democrats have to move to the right.
Yeah.
And he can't quite bring himself to say it that clearly.
No.
But that's exactly what the Democrats do need to do. Mercifully, they won't. And we will hopefully have a Trump presidency.
One of three things is going to happen. What you just said, they're going to ignore him, and then it's just going to move on, and they'll try to cheat again. Or Biden will actually heed this advice and actually, fix some of the problems that he's caused, but it'll, I think, be too little too late.
Yeah.
Or the third thing that may happen, and this may happen anyway, Fareed Zakaria is going to be fired. It's 5:53.